welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I've got a magic comparison review for you. I'm going to be reviewing a mentalism effect with some other ones. We're taking a look at Billet Prediction by Kassim Beydoun. Now you can pick this up off of his Gumroad site for about 10 pounds. It's about $13. You're going to get access to an instructional video where you're going to learn this billet prediction effect, where you're using a stack of billets or your business cards and a pen, and you're going to be predicting pretty much anything you want that a spectator is going to think about. So I'm going to show you guys what the demo looks like from his site, and then we're going to go over the positives and the negatives, and then I'm going to do a head-to-head comparison of this with an effect that I think is very similar but just far superior. And then we're also going to do a head-to-head comparison of this effect with a couple of other billet prediction effects that I've gone over in the past here on this channel. All right, so let's first take a look at the demo.
Only uses a stack of billets and a Sharpie, and it's really, really fun to do. So I'm using a Sharpie because of the lighting, but you can use a pen or a pencil, it doesn't really matter. So it's a prediction type effect. So I will write down a prediction of what will happen in the future. So let me just do this. Okay. I'll place this in my pocket in full view. Okay. Now, you will ask the spectator to name 2 words. Okay. It's a free choice, no restrictions. They can name any 2 words they want. Let's say the first word they say is watch, okay? You can ask them, why did you go for that word? That was a completely free choice. You could have named any word at all. They agree. Then you ask him to name a second word. Let's say the second word is spoon. So you write down spoon. So you've written down 2 words, spoon and watch. Now you give them the pen and they can choose any one of these words. They put an X on them, okay? So whichever word they put an X on. Let's say they put an X on watch. So they've chosen to choose the watch, and this was a completely free choice. You remind them, they could have named any 2 words at all, and they've chosen the watch out of these 2 words. Now in your pocket, you have a prediction, and it's the only prediction inside your pocket. There's no switches in any way, and obviously you remind them that they could have gone for any words and they've chosen watch, and your prediction actually says you will say watch, or you will choose watch, or whatever you want to predict. But it's really cool. It's that clean every time, and yeah, it's just so fun to do. I've been performing this all day, and hopefully you guys like it.
All right, so you guys took a look at the demo, and I will tell you guys that the effect looks pretty good. The positives of this is that it's relatively easy to perform, so there is some very minor sleight of hand, but nothing difficult. It's really easy for a spectator to follow because it's really quick, and the setup overall is really fast too, and it's really minor. Like, those are the real positives here. But like, the negatives are quite a few. You know, the first negative is that you're not just using a stack of billets and a pen. You actually have to gimmick or gaff your business card or your billet to be able to perform this. So you are going to need something else to perform this. It's not just a stack of billets and a pen. That's actually inaccurate. And in terms of inaccuracies, the actual demo that you saw is actually quite inaccurate, because the selection procedure after they've thought of the 2 words is not as clean as you saw in that demo. You cannot tell the spectator to put an X on the word that they want to choose. You can't tell them that. In fact, you're going to tell them to put an X on one of the words, and after they do that, only then do you interpret what the X meant. So the reality is that the equivoke is actually quite weak because you're only using 2 words. So for that reason, it really does make it absolutely weak in that way. You know, the other issues that you may have with this is, as I mentioned, there is some very minor card handling. So you will have to be able to do kind of a move of some sort. You know, I wouldn't even consider it to be any difficulty move. but there is a move there. And there are two major discrepancies in the routine that I didn't like at all. Once in a while, I would get kind of called out on it. You know, I'll mention the one discrepancy, as you saw in the demo, where the prediction is taken out of the pocket and laid on the other card in your hand. And then only then do you lift them up and show them, you know, the card that had the X on it and the prediction. The problem with it is there's no motivation for taking out that prediction card out of your pocket and then laying it on your hand. It doesn't look good at all. It doesn't make sense. And for that reason, you've got a problem because you end dirty. So even when you show them the two cards, you cannot immediately just give them the prediction card. And that was the problem that I had over the past 3 months when I tried to road test this, is that on numerous occasions, I'd have people that want to look at the card. They wanted the card. They wanted to see the prediction card up close because they didn't understand how this was possible. And when somebody is really fooled badly, they want to look at it closely. Like when you watch a demo online, you don't have that option, so you don't have that luxury. But if somebody performs this for you 3 feet away from your face, well, you could grab it out of their hand. You could be like, let me look at that for a second, you know, especially because they're doing a double take because they can't believe you just managed to predict a word they just randomly thought of. So this type of effect needs to be squeaky clean. Now, I'm not going to mention the other discrepancy out loud because I just don't want to give away the method overall. But the truth of the matter is that even the other discrepancy doesn't look good, and you may have even picked up on it just watching the demo. So the effects that I'm going to compare this to, there's 3 effects I'm going to compare this to. The first effect I'm going to compare it to is Jeff's Ultimental. Now, this is another like billet or business card prediction effect that it really is an effect that's like a confabulation effect, and it looks extremely similar to this in a way where you can have the spectator think of some random words and they're going to choose one and you predicted it ahead of time. That's basically what the effect is, and I think it's far superior to this effect, which is why I'm doing this direct comparison. But I also want to compare a couple of other effects that I've gone over on this channel that you probably like. For instance, I wanted to go over as well Billet Chi that I went over from Julian Losa in his Billets for the Modern Mind Reader Volume 2, which is going to cost you just about the same, around $15, except you're going to get a bunch of other effects with it, as well as the worker that I went over, I don't know, like a year ago now, the No Luck Needed effect by Elizida. That effect that you can get from Penguin Magic, you can still pick it up. I think it's like $30, but definitely well worth it. And it's a worker review that I went over. Now, Jeff's Ultimental that I'm going to show you guys, I don't think it's available anymore. As I mentioned, I've been using it for like 15 years. I think it came out like 20 years ago or more. It's at least 20 years old. And the idea was that you tell a spectator you want them to think of something, you write down your prediction on a card and you put it in an envelope, and then you have them name the words they're thinking of, and then you have them choose one, and you've predicted it ahead of time. It's a very strong effect. And I've actually come up with my own version of it because I wanted to clean up a few of the very small discrepancies that exist with the original effect. But that being said, the original version is really workable and you could perform it exactly as it is. And I did for quite a while before I came up with my own version. The only thing is, I don't know if you can really find it anymore. You may have to get it from somebody that has it. You may have to buy it off of somebody because I don't think it's even sold anymore. Now I'm going to show you guys a quick demo of the version that I carry around with me all the time. This is like part of my everyday carry. It's always in my bag. So let's take a quick look at it so you can get a sense of what it is. In fact, my starting point for this was Ultimental 2 because I like the idea of just using 2 business cards. Now, I always carry this envelope with me like everywhere I go because this effect is like really the perfect close-up confabulation effect. It's such a strong effect, like one-on-one or even for like a small group of people, really. And the angles are not bad on it at all. And because it's so easy to understand, like there's no heat on you. Like really, by the time everything's done, it really it's already over before they realize what's even happened. So I'm not going to go over the pattern that I use. I'm just going to show you the bare bones of it so you can get a sense of what the effect really looks like. So you're going to take out this envelope. You're going to show them that inside you've got 2 business cards that are blank. And as I mentioned, I'm not going to go over the pattern I use, but just to give you an idea, you can really do whatever kind of pattern you want. But what I like to do is I'll tell the person that in a moment I'm going to have them think of something, of a couple of words, and based on whatever topic you want to have them do. Like you can have them think of a specific topic if you want, it's up to you. But I tell them that I'm going to just write something down that's like a prediction, and I'm going to put it in the envelope, and then in a moment I'll let them take a look at it when we're done. So I'll say, just clear your mind, I'm going to write something down, and then I'll usually ask them, I'll say, so tell me something though. Do you believe in free will or what? Or do you think that there's like a lot of chance involved in life, like you're not really in control of what's going on? And as they're answering that, I start writing down my prediction here. And like I say, like, do you think that there's a lot of randomization in the universe, that kind of thing? And then they may say yes or no or whatever. And then I'll say, okay, that's really interesting. And that tells me something about you. All right, I've written down my prediction here. And I'll tell the person that in a moment, I'm going to let you see this. But for now, I'm just going to isolate it here inside of this envelope because it will make sense in a moment. And this way, there's no way I can tamper with it. Now, I'm going to take the other card and I'm going to write down a couple of words that you're going to just freely think of. So what I want you to do is this. I want you to just name any random word, like in this case. So maybe they say the word odd. So I'll write down the word like odd. And then I may even like say to them like, here, that's the word you're thinking of, right? Odd, yeah, okay, good. And I'll say, so that's the idea, all right? So give me another random word. So maybe they say the word man, for instance. So you'll say like, okay, man, and then you say, all right, give me a third random word. Maybe they say the word out. So I say, okay, out. And I tell them, okay, so there's our 3 words. And I'll say, now hold out your hand for me, and I'm going to give you the envelope. And what I'm going to do is we're going to introduce a little bit of randomization or a little bit of chance into this, because I'm going to separate the 3 words that you gave me, and we're going to eliminate 2 of them, okay? I want you to just choose any 2 pieces. Just point to them. These are the exact words I use. Now, I'm not going to go over the entire selection process here because I just don't really want to give that completely away. But the idea is this. I just tell them to choose any 2. Whatever 2 they choose, I even give them the option to change their mind if they want to. For argument's sake, let's just say that they chose these 2. And then I'll just remove them and put in my pocket and say, just like I told you, we eliminated 2 and we're left with 1. Is there any way you would have known that you would have ended up with this word, odd, that you randomly thought of? And they'll say yes or no or whatever. It's at this point that I can pick up the envelope out of their hand and I can say, look, this has been in your hand the entire time. And I've got here a paper clip. It's paper clipped, so there's no way anyone can tamper with it. And here's what's really crazy is read what I wrote on this card. They're going to see that it says you will think of and choose odd, and it matches perfectly. That is going to utterly blow their mind. So then you can just leave them with the prediction card at that point. This little piece, I just usually put it in my pocket and get rid of it. Nobody cares about it. The envelope, again, I usually just put it away, but if you want to, you can flash it so they can see there's nothing else inside. But it doesn't matter anyway because they're not going to look at it. I just put that away too. That's the end of the effect. You can see why this is like an everyday carry for me because it's absolutely powerful, blows people away, very easy to perform. That's my handling of Ultimental. But like I mentioned to you guys, the original effect really is probably just as good as that. So if you can get your hands on it, then I think that you really got something special. So I just wanted to share with you guys what that looks like. So let me go over why I think that this effect, Ultimental, is far superior to Billet Prediction. And the main reasons are because, 1, the props can be shown very cleanly in the beginning of the effect. And you make your prediction, you isolate it immediately inside the envelope with the paper clip that I use, so there's no way that you're tampering with it. Then there's an utter fairness about how the spectator is able to choose the word that they think of the envelope is placed in the spectator's hand and you don't remove it from there until after the word is chosen. And as I mentioned, the word is chosen in an utter fair way where they're not going to feel like there is any kind of magician's choice involved. As you can see in the demo, there is no double writing or anything weird that would look strange to the spectators, and you can immediately hand out the prediction to them for them to keep at the end of the effect. So it looks utterly clean. There's no difficult moves. It's like the ultimate effect. It's exactly what you always want to look for, which is why I am comparing it to this billet prediction effect. Now, I'm going to show you guys a chart that I made, which is like a comparison chart of the billet prediction with the other three effects. So let's take a look at this chart so you guys can see the 7 different categories. And I'm just going to touch on a few of them very quickly. As you can see there, like the first category was props are shown cleanly, and you can see how like Billet and Ultimental are really the only two that you can show the props cleanly where the spectator can really scrutinize them. And the next category, which is setup involved, you can see that all of them have a setup involved except for Billet. The next category, sleight of hand, you can see that there is some sleight of hand involved with Billet Prediction because, as I mentioned, there is some card handling. And as you guys probably are aware, Billet does use a switch, so that is sleight of hand. But the other two effects do not use any sleight of hand at all. So you may like to check those out if you don't want to do any sleight of hand. The next category was equivoke. And what I meant by that was that what effects use a horrible equivoke or one that's not so desirable. And the first one, of course, is Billet Prediction has like the worst equivoke that I've ever seen in this type of effect. I also put an X under no luck needed because if you try to perform the effect as it's described in the book, I didn't like the selection procedure. It felt like a magician's force. Of course, I've cleaned up the handling myself. So if you've messaged me, I've shown you my handling for the selection procedure so it doesn't feel really like an equivoke. Of course, Ultimental and Billet, those effects, especially Billet, does not use any equivoke at all. The next category is discrepancies, and you can see that Billet Prediction is really the only one that has some glaring discrepancies. The other effects really don't. In terms of the prediction, where it is, how it has to come out of your pocket, you can see that really all of these effects have the prediction coming out of your pocket, except for Ultimental, because the prediction is really going to be in their hands after they make the selection. Like while they're making the selection, the prediction is sitting in their hands, so it feels very fair. I will mention though that Billet also feels extremely fair because it feels like there's no way that you could know anything because everything just feels so off the cuff in that moment. And the beauty of it is you can even let them put their hand in your pocket. They're not going to find anything else there, so it's really going to be a mystery to them. And finally, the last category was that the prediction can be given away cleanly, and you can see that all of these effects that I'm comparing Billet Prediction to, the prediction can be given away fairly and cleanly at the end, whereas Billet Prediction is the only one that can't. So you can see for every single one of these categories, Billet Prediction really fails, which is why you guys can see that the actual rating that I've given this, if you know the rating system that is commonly given to like video games, then you'll understand this rating system where I've rated Ultimental and Billet as S rating or superior rating or super rating, because those two effects I feel are absolute top-notch effects. And then I gave No Luck Needed an A rating because it's almost an S rating really. Unfortunately, the reason why it's really not S rated is because it requires a setup, so you can't really immediately repeat it. So it's really not as versatile as Ultimental and Billet because they automatically reset. You can just automatically perform them a second time, whereas you can't really do that with No Luck Needed. And then Billet Prediction, I gave it a D rating. It's workable, you can use it, but it has so many negatives involved with it and you cannot immediately repeat it either. So for that reason, I really gave it a D rating compared to these other effects. And I would highly recommend to you guys that you just stick with one of these other 3 effects that I'm mentioning in this magic comparison review, because all 3 of them are far superior to Billet Prediction. Anyway, that's pretty much everything I wanted to say in this magic comparison review. And I really hope that this has been helpful to you guys. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, just leave them for me below. I hope it's been helpful to you. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you on the next review.